Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the OK Grognard Show. It is Sunday, December 13th, 2020, 10 a.m. Central, in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Well, it's Sunday, and makes it a rules retrospective day. We've been looking for a little bit at first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master Guide rules on Expert Hirelings. We took time to do a bunch of the early ones, and actually we did the Sage all by itself, and we did Mercenaries all by themselves because those were both big sections within a big section. And let's see if we can knock out the rest of them today. Then we'll have next Sunday for one last show for the year before a week from tomorrow we do our last show of the year and then go on a couple week vacation. So, when I say vacation, I just mean I won't be doing the show every day. And then when we get into January, we'll switch the format. We'll do 2 shows a week on Monday and Thursday. We'll probably do a little more than that. Those will be the scheduled days. We'll do some pickup shows where we do try to get some games in, streaming games, and just some random, I don't know, we should call them random reports or something like that, where we just, something, the mood hits us to talk about something, so we pop on and do a quick stream. Maybe we'll do some live Discord roundtables or panels with a bunch of people that just feel like shooting the shit for a while. We'll see. Something like that. Anyway, today we're going to try to finish up the section on hirelings, expert hirelings. So let's definitely pop on over there and have a look at stuff. Here we go. So sages and then scribes, right? Because we got everything before that. Scribes. A scribe is principally a secretary or a copyist. He or she will be able to record normal things, but never anything of a magical nature. Specialists such as scribes able to make maps or copy them. Cartographers will be scarce indeed, and generally they will command 10 times the cost of a normal scribe. Other specialists would be those able to use codes and ciphers, and those able to read and write a language other than the common tongue. These scribes are likewise rare and 10 times as costly as the normal sort. So cartographers are 10 times, and so are these others. Okay. Well, I would think you might want to make some amendments to that for certain campaigns. I think if you're running a campaign where most of the player characters are elves and they have a good ties with their homeland, that a scribe that reads and writes Elven would not be a 10 times cost. I would think when it comes to cartography, you may want to expand that a little bit or granulate it more. Cartographers that are in an area that's well known where there's competition, say a large capital city of a kingdom, let's go to an extreme, might have other scribes that could all make maps of the kingdom quite easily and have no problem selling those a little less expensively. Someone like that well, their skills as a cartographer are pretty big deal. How much competition there is can cut down on how much they can demand. So you may want to consider that. Navigational charts, maybe even more so, more expensive. Somebody who's got a far-ranging knowledge of not just local waters and local trade routes, but beyond what is locally known. Maybe they've seen other navigational charts from individuals that came in from other areas and they're aware of these things. So if you're taking them out, you're doing a sea voyage campaign and you're bringing along a cartographer to keep track of that sort of thing, that's a kind of specialty that somebody who's never left land or doesn't know anything about oceans or sea voyages would be. So maybe they command more. Maybe there are certain languages that are rare in your campaign that cost more than 10 times to get somebody who's able to be a scribe in those languages. So think about those things as beyond just simple specialists. You may want to have some that are only 5 times as much or twice as much or even just regular wages, whereas you may have some that cost more than 10 times as much. There's one expert on Draconic in all of the land, and you want to hire him to write everything you hear when you go to speak with this actual dragon. So it's going to be this unique manuscript, and you can't take any chances that the language is going to be written down incorrectly. Ship crew is the next one. As with a captain, crewmen must be of the sort needed for the vessel and the waters it is to sojourn in. That is, the crew must be sailors, oarsmen, or mates of either freshwater vessels or saltwater vessels. Furthermore, they must be either galley trained or sailing vessel trained. Sailors cost the same as heavy infantry soldiers, 2 gold pieces per month, and fight as light infantry. They never wear armor, but will use almost any sort of weapon furnished. Oarsmen are considered to be non-slave types and primarily sailor soldiers. And of course they have to mention that because in the ancient world, galleys were often manned at their oars by slaves, people taken in war from rival nations. And of course a lot of pulp fiction like Robert E. Howard's works were rife with galley slaves. Oarsmen are considered to be non-slave types and primarily sailor soldiers. They cost 5 gold pieces per month, wear any sort of armor furnished, and use shields and all sorts of weapons. Marines are simply soldiers aboard ship. They cost 3 gold pieces per month and otherwise have armor and weapons of heavy foot as furnished. Mates and sailor sergeants who have special duties aboard the vessel. Mates are sailor sergeants who have special duties aboard the vessels. They conform to specifications of sergeants and cost 30 gold pieces per month. We went over mercenaries last week, so we won't dive back into that, but watch that or read that section of the DMG if you want to clarify how sergeants and furthermore lieutenants and captains work within larger groups. If you have multiple ships and you have multiple blocks of units of soldiers, you'll want to know all of that stuff. Ship master. This profession covers a broad category. Jason and the Argonauts. Yeah, there's a great example. The finest crew for the finest ship. so we'll hold the Olympics. This profession, shipmaster, covers a broad category of individuals able to operate a vessel. The likelihood of encountering any given type depends on the surroundings and must be determined by the referee. Types are river vessel master, lake vessel master, sea coastal vessel master, galley captain, ocean going vessel captain. The latter sort should be very rare in medieval-based technology milieu. Hey. Note that each master or captain will have at least one lieutenant and several mates. These sailors correspond to mercenary soldier lieutenants and sergeants in all respects. For every 20 crewmen, sailors or oarmen, there must be one lieutenant and two mates. Sailing any vessel will be progressively more hazardous without master or captain, lieutenants, and mates. See Waterborne Adventures. The proper type of master or captain must be obtained to operate whatever sort of vessel is applicable in the waters indicated. Cost for masters, captains, and lieutenants is 100 gold pieces per month per level of experience. They also are entitled to a share of any prize or treasure taken at sea or on land in their presence. The master captain gets 25%, each lieutenant gets 5%, each mate 1%, and the crewmen share between them 5%. The remainder goes to the player character, of course. That's pretty self-explanatory. We'll move right on to spy. Spying is a profession which is typically reserved for assassin characters. Other types of characters can be paid to spy, but such activity must be at the discretion of the dungeon master. Yeah, let me throw it out there right up front. I don't use assassins in my own games. Such like this would fall to thief characters for me. Maybe magic users, in that they can be stealthy in ways through magic that can be very useful. I mean, obviously, if you could have somebody who could cast invisibility whenever they wanted to, that would be a very useful thing. The player character must locate a likely prospect and then employ him or her in some capacity which is in accord with the prospective spy's station and occupation or profession. And let's not forget that somebody who just happens to be at court, a fan person, a person who's waving a fan around in the heat, in a hot climate, somebody who's a servant who's bringing food, any number of people like that could be potential spies because they're close to people who would be speaking openly in front of them, in all likelihood, or just ignoring the fact that they're there. And what skills they might need as far as sneaking or climbing or hiding or all of that other stuff is almost negligible when they're implanted right there already. So maybe it's more about nerve when it comes to that. How much can you do deceitfully and not allow it to affect the rest of what you're doing? You know, if your hands are shaking all the time while you're a server, that might tip someone off that you're nervous and shouldn't be trusted. The sums offered can range from as little as 100 gold pieces. Hiring crews seems to be hinted. Wargaming background, Gary brought. Yeah, definitely, George. The all of the ship stuff is just as tied. You know, it's a Waterburn version of all the mercenaries, and all of that definitely was fed by Gary's love of wargaming. Absolutely. let's see, where were we here? 7 capacity of board of size station occupation. Then, by means of discussion and offers of payment, the player character must convince the character that he or she should become a spy. The sums offered can range from as little as 100 gold pieces to as great as 10,000 or more, depending on the situation of the person being approached. If the area where the spy must go is distant, the person or persons to be spied upon dangerous, or the prospective spy of high station, the likelihood of acceptance is low, unless the pay is exceptional. In money, and possibly magic or land or position or some other valuable consideration. Payment must always be made by installment, part on taking the assignment, the balance on completion of the assignment. Use the assassin spying tables to determine the success of any mission, treating the spy as a first-level assassin on his or her first mission, second on the second, etc. Such spies can never become more proficient at spying than 8th level in any event. So we've capped it off. Oh, and look at these little mousy spies. Very good. This had better work. Stored Castellan. This occupation pertains to the overseeing of a castle, particularly if a player character owner of the stronghold is not a fighter or cleric, or if he or she intends to be away for a time and desires to make certain that the castle is well run and safe. The stored castellan is the same as a mercenary soldier captain with respect to level, but cost of employment is double, 200 gold pieces per level. However, as he or she is dealing with troops within the stronghold, command ability is double, 40 troops per level. Generally, a trusted captain will be appointed castellan or steward. Once so appointed, the character will feel affront if asked to take the field as if he or she were nothing more than a common mercenary captain. The castle with a stored castellan will always be sufficiently garrisoned, have ample food, water, reserves, oil, siege equipment, and engines, missiles, etc., and will be kept in good repair. Of course, the player character must initially establish the stronghold and its attendant needs for men and supplies of all sorts. Once this has been accomplished, bought and stocked, the castellan or steward will see that levels are maintained according to the dictates of his or her master. The costs of such work come from standard support costs of the stronghold, but a steward castellan will see that such funds are actually spent on what they are meant for. Note, loyalty of such a character must be kept high, or else disaster might result the first time an enemy approaches the place when the player character is away. That's all pretty straightforward. It's, pay them to do all your book work for you. Otherwise, your campaign is going to bog down and that sort of thing, right? Then we've got Weapon Maker. A weapon maker is a sort of smith armor specializing in the manufacture of high-quality arms. As DM, you might desire to divide weapon makers into the three following classes. Bowyer Arrowsmith Fletcher, Swordsmith Daggersmith, a Weaponer General. The Bowyer, wood fashion, any sort of bow, including crossbows and missiles for same. Swordsmith work would be strictly with all forms of swords and daggers. The Weaponer would fashion all weapons not made by the other two classes of weapon makers. As with other hirelings of this sort, the weapon maker must have a forge and workroom. He or she will have various apprentices, which are subsumed in the monthly cost. A weapon maker is necessary to support troops, one being required to support each 80 men or fraction thereof. If the weapon maker has free time, he or she can turn out weapons at a rate of 1 weapon per day after the initial startup period of 1 month. Exceptions to this rate are composite and longbows, which require a startup time of 1 year and are turned out at the rate of 2 to 5 per month thereafter. Heavy crossbows, which are turned out at a rate of 15 per month. And swords, which are made as follows. And they have a nice little table here with scimitar, 10 a month, bastard sword, 8 a month, broad, 15 a month, long, 12 a month, short, 20 a month, two-handed, 5 a month. Scabbards, for all weapons, will have to be manufactured by a leather worker of some sort. Location of a weapon maker willing to take service with any player character should be difficult. They are in high demand. So that's very important. Now you can gerrymander these numbers a little bit if you feel that's necessary, but if that's going to be a major part of your campaign, then you definitely want to granulate it a lot more and be a lot more hands-on with it. But this is about as little detail as you want before you get to the point of just hand-waving it and saying, you throw down this much money, you purchase this many things, you have somebody who's making them for you on the regular. As an addendum to the whole hirelings, expert hirelings section, we say daily employment. Expert hirelings are generally not available for periods of less than 1 or more months. Soldiers can be hired, but not captains, lieutenants, and sergeants. They recognize hazardous duty, and the cost per day is the same as per month. The supply of such men-at-arms willing to work day to day is strictly limited. So if the PCs lose them adventuring, more will not be likely to be found. So yeah, you can shell out a month's pay and pick yourself up a higher level fighter in the form of a sergeant or lieutenant, or maybe even a captain, if they think you're someone they should follow and they really want the money. But if you're going through these things, if they keep dying when they join you on these adventures, you're going to run out of people you can hire. And it's not just that there's only so many of them available, but that's colliding on one end. The supply is shrinking because they're getting killed, but the supply is also shrinking because word's getting around that anybody who goes with you doesn't come back. And that's not good. Where's all that money going? Well, sure, if they offer you a bunch of money, but if you wind up dying and, they're just pulling your equipment off of your body and taking back their own money, and money's not going to your next of kin or a burial, you really want to go along with guys like this? They don't take care of their own. And their own being those they hire as well as those that they join in with. So there you go. That is the end of hirelings. I'm going to hold off on Henchmen until we get into the new year. We should do a whole longer show on Henchmen. It's a big old hulking section. I'd like to do it all at once. It's something we didn't touch on when we got into hireling. Hireling's easier than dealing with henchmen because hirelings are all about, this is what you want, this is what you pay for, this is how long you get it. Pretty straightforward, except for this little section at the end. Then it's all pretty straightforward. It's stuff you might want to granulate slightly differently for your own campaign based on what it is you do, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. Henchmen, on the other hand, are a whole different market. They are a whole different type of cohort, if you will. So that it deserves its own thing. We'll get into it. It's a big old section in the DMG. It's something that some first edition games, sometimes I'll run a game and I'll have so many players that having a bunch of henchmen on top of all that is crazy. Sometimes I want to run a more deadly game and I only have a few players, and that's when henchmen are needed all the time. A lot of games that I play in that are either first edition or other old school retro clone type games make a prodigious use of henchmen, and that's good. That's a very good thing. Certainly, Hobbs' big old games are very henchman, and Mr. Moore, Thaddeus Moore, when he runs games, henchmen are in use. So, they're definitely fun. Well, I tell you what, I think we're just about done here, so we will finish up for the day and say thank you very much for coming by. Thanks for following the show. Thanks for joining in the strat team, in the team, in the stream chat. George, I appreciate it. And hope you have a good Sunday too. Hey, did I ever get what do I say? Double check this. Not arrived as yet. Yeah, it's been slow. Well, I didn't send them off immediately when you won. I waited until the other people won. I didn't want to spend more time in the post office than I needed to, so I waited until I had a few packages. But off it has gone to that place in the hills where there's water. Hey, John, how you doing? So, Friday. Delivery estimate says Friday, December 11th. So, technically, you should have gotten it on Friday. And one should have arrived in Tennessee on Saturday. We'll see. You know what? I'll check out the tracking number a little bit later today, George, and if there's anything weird about it, I'll make sure to let you know that they claim it arrived or whatever the case might be. We will see. But thank you very much, and thank you to everybody. Hey, we got one more week of shows here, really, plus a Monday. So starting up tomorrow, weekly news and announcements, cartography and world building. On Tuesday, campaign discussion on Wednesday, GMing tips on Thursday. We've got building adventures on Friday, GMing tips on Saturday, and back around to a rules retrospective, last one of the year, next Sunday. I also want to say thanks to everybody who might be joining into this on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel and give a thumbs up to any videos you watch or enjoy. I appreciate that. Make comments if you have some constructive criticism or just want to give us a pat on the back or talk about whatever we were talking about and the theme. Feel free. That'd be great. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.